My husband cheated, then filed for divorce like I meant nothing. I didn't fight. I didn't beg. I just signed the papers and gave up custody without a word. He called me cold, heartless, said I'd regret it. But this morning, he showed up at my door, looked me in the eyes, and said, I think I made a mistake. It happened on a Thursday. Not even a dramatic one. Just one of those regular, office-worn, stale coffee Thursdays where your biggest worry is whether the toner will run out before your presentation prints. I was redlining a vendor contract, halfway through my third cup of lukewarm coffee when Renee tapped on my glass office door. Her knock was tentative, uncertain. That was my first sign something was off. Renee never hesitated. I looked up, and the moment I saw her face, I knew it wasn't work-related. Her eyes were wide, her mouth slightly open, like she was afraid to say the words. There's a man here, says he needs to deliver something. To you. Personally, she whispered. I stood, straightened my blouse, smoothed my skirt. I wasn't worried. Curious, maybe, mildly annoyed. My name was not unfamiliar in legal documents, but only in a professional sense. I stepped into the hallway and saw him, a man in a windbreaker and khakis, holding a manila envelope like it was radioactive. Are you Mrs. Cameron Wells? He asked. Yes, I said without hesitation. He nodded, handed me the envelope. You've been served. Renee gasped, a real gasp, the kind that echoed down the hallway. Michael from accounting stopped walking. Even Sam, the company clown, turned serious. I didn't flinch. I didn't say anything. I just took the envelope and walked back into my office like it was a takeout menu. I closed the door, sat down. My hands didn't shake. They were steady, methodical. I opened the envelope slowly. Not because I wanted to savor the moment, but because I already knew. There is a kind of silence that screams at you before the words ever hit the page. Divorce. Filed by Cameron. No note, no explanation, no heads up. Just legal language dividing our life like it was a grocery list. Custody, him. Property, contested. Alimony, waived. I sat in that chair for a full 10 minutes before Renee knocked again. This time it was softer. Should I clear your schedule? She asked. Clear the 2 o'clock, push everything else to Monday, I said. She paused. Do you want me to call someone? I shook my head. No, just you and me today. She nodded and disappeared. I could hear whispers outside the glass walls. Speculation, pity, shock, but I stayed silent. I wouldn't give them a story. By 3:15, Simone from HR slacked me. You okay? I saw the guy, looked official. I typed, yeah. Cameron filed, I'm good. No emoji, no punctuation, just fact. Simone replied almost instantly. I'm bringing wine, you don't get to veto. At 4:00 p.m. I left, quietly. No dramatic exit, no storming out. Just grabbed my bag and coat and walked out like I hadn't just been legally untethered from the man I shared a mortgage, a bed, and a child with. That night, I didn't cry. I poured a glass of wine, sat on the couch, and opened my wedding album. I flipped through it like it belonged to someone else. The photos were beautiful, so curated, so distant now. Chalum, our son's birthday. Our 5th anniversary dinner where he told me I still gave him butterflies. And now, he sent a stranger to end it. Renee texted later, you left your charger, I'll bring it tomorrow, and coffee. I replied, thanks. You're the best. But even she knew I wasn't okay. And maybe, for once, that was perfectly fine. I didn't fight him, not in court, not on the phone, not even in my own head. By the time I told my girls, Layla, Simone, and Roxy, it was already done. Signed, sealed, scanned, and returned. I told them at Roxy's apartment, where the lighting was always too warm and the wine was always too full. They were halfway through a rerun of The Real Housewives of Atlanta when I walked in with a grocery bag full of nothing but almond biscotti and sparkling water. You didn't get cheese? Simone asked, reaching into the bag and frowning. I signed the papers, I said. Everything stopped. Roxy grabbed the remote and paused the show mid-confession. Layla blinked. Simone sat up straighter, biscotti completely forgotten. You what? Layla asked, already moving toward me like she wasn't sure if I was injured or just joking. I signed the divorce papers, I said. Cameron's, I didn't change a thing. There was a long silence, not the soft kind. The loaded, hot kind that usually came before an explosion. Roxy spoke first. Girl, are you high? I might be, but only on numbness, I replied. You didn't fight for anything? Simone asked. Not the house, not custody. Not the dog. I didn't want anything, I said. I just wanted it over. Roxy looked like she was about to throw something. Possibly the biscotti. You're telling me this man cheats, files for divorce like you're some forgotten Uber Eats order, and you just hand him everything on a silver platter. He didn't cheat, I said, even though I wasn't sure anymore. Not confirmed. Oh, please, Layla muttered. Confirmed or not, you know what this is. And now he gets to paint you as the heartless one. Simone walked to the kitchen and came back with a bottle of tequila. Not wine, tequila. That told me exactly how bad she thought this was. You're being too quiet, Roxy said to Layla. Say what you're thinking. Layla folded her arms. I think she's hiding something. I'm not, I said too quickly. You're not fighting because you're afraid, she continued. Not of losing, but of how angry you really are. The words hung in the air like smoke. I looked down at my lap. I didn't want to cry, not in front of them. I'd been so strong at work, so flat when Renee asked if I wanted her to notify someone. So composed while scrolling past my own wedding photos. I didn't want to fall apart now. Not with these women who'd known me since college, who'd braided my hair in hotel bathrooms and held my heels when I puked at brunch. You want to know what I'm hiding? I said finally. I didn't ask for custody, because I didn't want to watch Cameron weaponize our son against me. Silence again. I didn't want my child to grow up in courtrooms. I didn't want to fight over holidays or argue about who gets him for Thanksgiving. And, if we're being honest, I didn't want to see the look on my kid's face when he realized his father didn't want me. Simone's eyes filled. Roxy cursed under her breath. Layla walked over and sat beside me. You're not heartless, Layla said. You're tired, you're wrecked. And you're wrong, Roxy added. He didn't leave because you weren't enough. He left because he thought he could. And you made it easy. That part stung more than I expected. I just didn't want to be in a war, I whispered. Then let us fight, Simone said. Give us something, anything, tell us where the sword is. We'll handle the rest. I didn't say anything. Roxy grabbed her phone. Okay, you don't want to fight? I do, I'm calling Fallen. No. Too late. Who's Fallen? Simone asked. My brother's wife, I muttered. She works with his firm, Roxy explained. If anyone knows whether there's another woman, it's her. I didn't stop her. I didn't want to know, but I needed to know. As Roxy stepped into the hallway to call Fallen, Layla squeezed my hand. We're not going to let you disappear into this, you know, she said. Simone nodded. You don't have to be made of steel all the time. I didn't feel like steel. I felt like paper. A document someone signed, dated, and filed away. Roxy came back 5 minutes later, face unreadable. What'd she say? Simone asked. She's calling me back, Roxy replied. She said she needs to check something first. She knows something, Layla said. That's what that means. We sat in silence, waiting for the confirmation we didn't want. I couldn't stop thinking about Cameron's face the last time we had dinner together. He'd smiled like nothing was wrong, held my hand across the table, said he loved me. That was 2 weeks before I got served. Now I sat in a living room full of women who loved me more honestly than he ever did. And I was starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the one who'd failed. Roxy's phone rang, and I knew everything was about to change. Roxy's phone lit up like it had been waiting its whole life to deliver the worst possible news. She answered on speaker. Fallen, she said, her tone already loaded. Fallen's voice came through calm, clipped, surgical. Yeah, it's confirmed. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. He's been seeing someone at the office. Her name's Drea. They've been, well, let's just say it's not a secret anymore. A couple people saw them at a hotel last month after the company retreat. They weren't subtle. I blinked. A hotel? Last month. I was still making his favorite breakfast then. Still buying almond milk because regular dairy upset his stomach. Still trying to book a couple's massage for our anniversary. Do you know how long? Roxy asked. Fallen hesitated. A few months, maybe more. He covered it well at first. But Drea's not exactly discreet. What does that mean? Simone snapped. She changed her Facebook profile picture to a photo of a sunset from Cabo. The same weekend Cameron told your cousin he had a work emergency in Houston. I remembered that weekend. He told me not to wait up. I'd stayed up anyway. fell asleep on the couch in the hoodie he said still smelled like me. I'm gonna kill him, Roxy muttered. Legally, spiritually, emotionally. He's disgusting, Simone added. Wait, Layla said, holding up a hand. You knew he was cheating and still signed those papers. I nodded. I didn't know, not then, but I do now. And you're still not contesting? Roxy asked, wide-eyed. What's the point? I asked. Let him rot with whatever version of love he thinks this is. Fallen cleared her throat through the speaker. There's more. Oh, there's more, Simone shouted. I didn't want to say this unless I was sure, but Drea, she's not just a fling. She told someone she's in love with him, said they've been talking about moving in together. Maybe marriage. My jaw clenched so hard my molars ached. Marriage. He wanted to marry her. He hadn't even had the decency to tell me himself. Just filed paperwork like I was a receipt he wanted to return. Thanks, Fallen, I said quietly. I'm sorry, really, if I'd known earlier. I know, I said, it's not your fault. I'll text you everything I know, she added. I'm done protecting him. She hung up, and just like that, the room shifted again. Layla stood up and paced like her limbs couldn't hold the rage. Simone poured another round of tequila shots like we were preparing for a funeral. Roxy grabbed a legal pad and started writing something. What are you doing? I asked. List of petty revenge options, she said without looking up. It's therapeutic. I laughed for the first time in hours. Simone handed me a shot. To new beginnings, she said. Layla clinked her glass against mine. And to the absolute hellfire that's coming for Drea. You really think she knew about me? I asked. Sweetheart, Simone said, he's still got photos of you on his Instagram. Of course she knew, she just didn't care. Women like that think they're the exception, Roxy added. Until he does to them what he did to you. I stared at my phone, Cameron's name still pinned in my recents. I thought about calling him. Screaming, demanding an explanation. But what would it change? He'd already made his decision. And now, so had I, you still want to let this go quietly? Layla asked. Yes, I said, but not because I'm weak. Because I'm not wasting another drop of energy on someone who threw me away like I was nothing. They all nodded, respect. That's what I saw in their eyes, not pity, not heartbreak, just the beginning of a shift. I was no longer someone to save. I was someone coming back. Simone leaned over and nudged me with her shoulder. So what's next? I move on, I said. I build something better. Without him. Then let's start now, Roxy said, tearing the top sheet off her notepad. Step 1, find the good wine. None of this store-brand nonsense. Layla raised an eyebrow. Step 2, block that man on every platform before we go full FBI. And start tracking Drea's eyebrow microblading appointments. Step 3, Simone added. You let us post a cryptic Instagram caption with one fire selfie. I couldn't help but laugh again. They were ridiculous, and they were mine. That night, as I lay in bed, the pain sat on my chest like a dull weight. But it wasn't the kind of pain that swallowed me whole. It was the kind that sharpened you. The kind that made you get up the next day with your chin a little higher. I didn't cry. I didn't call him. I slept. Because tomorrow, the real rebuild would begin. Fallen didn't even blink when I told her I wasn't fighting for custody. You're what? She said, nearly dropping her phone. You're letting him keep your child? Are you out of your mind? I was sitting at Roxy's place, half a croissant in my hand, coffee untouched. Layla looked up from her laptop on the couch. Simone actually took off her sunglasses, inside, to make sure she'd heard me right. I don't want a battle, I said. Roxy slapped her palm on the table. Since when do you avoid battles? You used to go to war over bad Yelp reviews. It's different, I said, barely audible. No, it's not, Fallen snapped, still on speaker. This is your son Ava, you gave birth to him, you named him, you taught him how to count using cereal. Simone pulled her hoodie over her head and groaned. This man cheated, filed behind your back, and now he gets to walk away with the kid too. I'm not handing him over, I said. I'm letting him take the lead. I'll still see him, I'll still be there. Roxy folded her arms. Yeah. Until Drea's playing stepmom and redecorating his bedroom in beige and betrayal. The room fell silent. Fallen said it quietly this time. What did your mom say? I hesitated. She called me heartless. She what? Simone muttered. She said no woman in our family had ever walked away from their child. That it's selfish. That one day he'll hate me for it. She must have forgotten Aunt Marcia, Roxy said. She left too and came back stronger. And you know what? The kids forgave her. The husband didn't survive the backlash. Layla finally spoke. Do you want him to live with Cameron because it's what's best for him, or because you're afraid Cameron poisoned him already? I stared at her. You think he turned your son against you? She asked. I didn't answer. That was the real silence, not the quiet of giving up. The quiet of not knowing where you stand in your child's eyes anymore. Simone suddenly stood. Get dressed. What? I asked. We're going to your mom's. Why? Because I want to look her in the eye when she calls you heartless again. And I want to ask her what she said when he filed for divorce. You're not going to my mother's house, I said. She's going to hear from someone, Simone replied, grabbing her purse. Might as well be the daughter you raised to fight. I wasn't raised to fight, I whispered. Then explain the time you took your boss to HR for telling you to smile more, Layla cut in. You've been fighting since you were 23. You just forgot. Fallon sighed through the phone. Maybe it's not about the fight. Maybe it's about the fact that this whole thing, this cheating, lying, filing, Drea nonsense, it's all been about him. And now, even this decision, it's still about what he wants. What about what you want, Ava? I want peace, I said. And what does your son want? Simone asked. Has anyone asked him? Because I bet you money, he doesn't want to be living full-time with the parent who replaced you before the ink was dry. Roxy stood and walked toward the hallway. I'm getting the calendar. We're mapping visitation. You're going to mediation if you won't go to court. I didn't say I wouldn't fight at all, I mumbled. Layla looked up. But you haven't said you would either. I took a deep breath, staring at my untouched coffee, the croissant now limp in my fingers. And that's when the door opened. Zara stepped in with 2 grocery bags and a scarf halfway falling off her head. Why is it quiet? Who died? Custody, Roxy said. Oh, Zara said. You mean the thing Ava's about to change her mind on after I tell her what our son said last weekend? I looked up sharply. What? Zara dropped the bags, pulled out her phone and tapped a video. He said it while we were making cupcakes. I recorded it. She turned the screen toward me. My son, standing on a stool covered in flour. He looked straight at the camera and asked, Do you think Mommy will come next time? The room exhaled all at once. Simone clapped once. Okay, that's it. If that doesn't move you, Ava. I'm moving, I said quietly. Roxy put her hand on my shoulder. Say it again. I'm not giving up custody. Layla smiled. Now we're talking. Fallon's voice came through the speaker again. Good, because I already called the attorney. She's expecting your call. Zara handed me my phone. Play the video again when you forget why. I looked at the screen, his face. His voice, I won't forget. Fallon didn't even knock. She walked into my apartment like she owned the place, kicked off her boots, and dropped a paper bag on my kitchen counter. It's bourbon, not for sipping. For surviving. I didn't argue. I didn't thank her either. I just took out the bottle, poured us each a glass, and sat at the kitchen island, eyes hollow. Fallon watched me like I was a puzzle she was sick of trying to solve. Cameron told Roxy you were cold, she said after a long silence. Said you signed the papers like you were checking out at a hotel. I didn't look up, I was just done. Fallon's eyes narrowed. He said you gave up. Said you didn't even try to fight for your kid. That's what really got to me. Like he expected applause for filing, and then confusion when you didn't fall apart. I took a long sip. I didn't have anything left to fight with. Fallon leaned in. You know what he said next. She'll regret it, just give it time. Like he was waiting for you to unravel on cue. My jaw clenched. That sounded exactly like Cameron, always rehearsing other people's breakdowns in his head like it was a play he directed. That's when Roxy barged in. No knock, no call, just a hurricane of hoop earrings, fury, and fire. She held up her phone like it was a weapon. This man told Simone that you lacked maternal instinct, said you were emotionally checked out. Fallon blinked. He said what? Roxy didn't even stop for air. So you know what I did? I told Simone to invite him for coffee. I sat 2 tables over. He walked in all smug, like he was about to be comforted. And then, she paused for dramatic effect, I walked up to that man and dumped a full iced mocha all over his stupid khaki pants. I choked on my bourbon. Fallon actually clapped. I didn't stop there, Roxy continued, pacing now. I told him, in front of God and Gloria from Human Resources, that if he ever weaponized your silence again, I'd show up at his new apartment with a banner that said, "Welcome to regret." You didn't, I muttered, a laugh breaking through my shock. I did, and then I tipped the barista $50 for the cleanup. Fallen raised her glass. To chaos. I clinked mine weakly. To witnesses. Roxy finally sat down. He's unraveling, you do know that, right? He didn't think you'd make it past week 1 without begging. And now that you haven't called, haven't cried, haven't reacted, he's spiraling. He said I was heartless, I whispered. Good, Roxy snapped. Be heartless, be an ice queen. Be a stone-cold, glass-shard goddess who can't be touched. That man threw you away like an old receipt and expected you to ask for the damn total. Fallen stood, grabbing her glass. I'm calling Layla, she needs to hear this. We're putting together a hit list of everyone who tried to make you doubt yourself. No one has that kind of time, I said, finally smiling. But then the doorbell rang, all 3 of us froze. Fallen raised an eyebrow. Are you expecting someone? I shook my head slowly. Roxy moved first, grabbing a knife from the drawer like we were in a horror movie. I tiptoed to the door and looked through the peephole. It's Cameron. Roxy hissed. Don't open it. Fallen pulled out her phone. Let me record this, just in case he tries anything. I opened the door. Cameron stood there with a blank expression, holding a small box. You forgot these, he said, holding up a stack of old photo albums and my son's kindergarten drawings. I didn't reach for them. He shifted awkwardly. I didn't mean for things to get like this. Roxy appeared behind me. She's busy, try again in your next life. Cameron flinched. I just wanted to return her things, he muttered. Fallen appeared too, phone held high. And now you have, bye. Cameron's eyes moved to me. You're really not going to talk to me. I folded my arms. You already talked, when you served me, when you lied to our son, when you walked out. He tried to smile, that stupid half-smile he used to get away with things. I was angry, confused. Now you're just late. Cameron looked down. You didn't even yell, you just left. You filed, I said, finally taking the box. I just accepted the truth. He stared at me for a long moment. You're different. Roxy snorted, she's better. Fallen added, she's free. Cameron blinked like he was seeing me for the first time. Then he turned and walked away. Roxy closed the door hard behind him. That was fun, she said, leaning against it. Wanna light some sage? No, I said, I wanna sleep for once. Fallen raised her glass again. To sleeping like a woman who doesn't give a damn anymore. To peace, I said softly. And for the first time in a long time, I meant it. It wasn't just the silence. It was the way the light hit the walls differently without him there. The way the closet air smelled cleaner. The fact that there was still a groove in the couch cushion where he used to sit, like the house hadn't gotten the memo yet that he was gone. By the next morning, the photo albums were stacked on the coffee table like a dare. I didn't open them. I just stared at the cover of the top one, our wedding photo, and thought about how many times I'd smiled through red flags I'd called rose petals. That's when Zara showed up. Cousin Zara with her box braids, her oversized hoodie that said therapy is expensive, so I yell, and her luggage dragging behind her. Hey, she said, walking in like she paid rent. I'm moving in. I blinked, what? Temporary. Emotional support. Plus, I hate my roommates and they eat all my cereal. This arrangement benefits us both. I laughed, I couldn't help it. Zara walked straight into the master bedroom, took one look at Cameron's side of the closet, and turned around with a look of pure offense. Oh no, what is this? She said, pulling out one of his faded gym towels like it personally insulted her. Don't touch that. But it was too late. She marched into the kitchen, dumped it in the trash, and yelled over her shoulder, this house needs a cleanse. Do you have candles, salt, holy water? I opened my mouth to respond, but then Simone called. Is Zara there yet? I blinked, how do you? She texted me, said she was invoking cousin rights and storming the castle. I glanced at Zara, now sorting through Cameron's old coffee mugs like she was deciding which ones had bad energy. She's here. Good, Simone said, and I'm dropping off wine and revenge playlists. Layla's burning all the receipts he left behind. I paused, literal receipts. Simone didn't miss a beat. We're starting with his gym charges, then moving to the flower shop purchases that happened way too close to your wedding anniversary. Zara threw her arms up in the air. The audacity of cardio and cheating. By noon, my house had been invaded by 3 women, 6 scented candles, 2 Bluetooth speakers blasting Beyoncé, and an emotional support cake from Roxy labeled, "You didn't deserve that man." Roxy showed up last, kicking the door open with a bag of groceries and a bottle of whiskey. "I'm here to cook you something fattening and remind you that your silence after the divorce was iconic." I raised an eyebrow. Was it? Girl, yes. He tried to paint you as cold and heartless, and instead you became an ice queen everyone wanted to date. Zara popped her head out from the hallway, holding up a trash bag. "Do I have permission to throw out his world's best dad mug?" I hesitated. Roxy stepped in. "Keep it, we'll use it to water plants." Symbolic. We ate in the living room. Pizza, cake, and truth bombs. Layla FaceTimed in from her hotel room in Miami. "I swear, I will fly back and egg his car if you want." Zara nodded solemnly. "We should all fly down there in matching hoodies with a playlist." "Good," Simone said, "and I'm dropping off wine and revenge playlists." Layla's burning all the receipts he left behind. I paused. Literal receipts. Simone didn't miss a beat. "We're starting with his gym charges, then moving to the flower shop purchases that happened way too close to your wedding anniversary." Zara threw her arms up in the air. The audacity of cardio and cheating. By noon, my house had been invaded by 3 women, 6 scented candles, 2 Bluetooth speakers blasting Beyoncé, and an emotional support cake from Roxy labeled, "You didn't deserve that man." Roxy showed up last, kicking the door open with a bag of groceries and a bottle of whiskey. "I'm here to cook you something fattening and remind you that your silence after the divorce was iconic." I raised an eyebrow. Was it? Girl, yes. He tried to paint you as cold and heartless, and instead you became an ice queen everyone wanted to date. Zara popped her head out from the hallway, holding up a trash bag. "Do I have permission to throw out his world's best dad mug?" I hesitated. Roxy stepped in. "Keep it, we'll use it to water plants." Symbolic. We ate in the living room. Pizza, cake, and truth bombs. Layla FaceTimed in from her hotel room in Miami. "I swear, I will fly back and egg his car if you want." Zara nodded solemnly. "We should all fly down there in matching hoodies with a playlist." The house that had felt so empty yesterday was now overflowing with energy, chaos, and women who loved me in a way I hadn't let myself feel in years. That night, as I was finally climbing into bed, my bed, Zara peeked her head in. "I'm sleeping in the guest room, but if you need me, I'm one scream away." I smiled. "I'll be fine." She looked at me for a long moment. "You didn't say you're strong." "I'm not yet, but I'm fine." Zara nodded. "Fine is a start." She closed the door. And for the first time since Cameron filed, I didn't dream about him. Zara drove me to court in her barely legal Corolla that had a cracked mirror and a Beyoncé air freshener swinging like a pendulum of sass. She parked 2 blocks away, "for dramatic effect," she said, and handed me a lip gloss like it was war paint. "Listen," she said, eyes dead serious. "You don't have to say anything wild. Just exist. That's enough to unnerve a man who thought you'd never show up again." I nodded, but my stomach twisted into knots. Family court wasn't new to me. I'd watched friends go through it. I just never thought I'd be the one on the witness side of a custody agreement I didn't even contest. I'd signed those papers in silence, walked away like he wanted. But the state still wanted to hear it from me. We walked through metal detectors, Zara flashing her cousin Wright's smile at the security guard. I was clutching my file folder like a shield, fingers cold even in the humidity. Then I saw him, Cameron, in a navy suit. Not the one from our anniversary dinner, but the one he wore to job interviews. The one that made him look serious, dependable, rehearsed. He was talking to his lawyer, a tall redhead in black pumps who looked like she knew exactly how to dismantle people's credibility with a spreadsheet and a smile. He didn't see me at first, but Zara's voice pierced the corridor like a warning shot. "Don't stand too close, he might catch feelings." Cameron turned, and when he saw me, he blinked, like I wasn't supposed to exist outside of the silent agreement we had. His gaze flicked to Zara, then to the manila folder I held. He stepped forward. "Can we talk before?" "No," Zara cut in. "She's got court to not fight for her own child. Kind of your specialty, right?" I raised a hand to Zara's arm. "Let it go." "Let what go?" she said, loud enough for the bailiff to glance over. The man who served you like a stranger and called you heartless for not begging him to stay. Oh, you mean that? I pulled her aside. I'm not doing this here. You should. But I won't. Zara huffed but backed down. We sat on the hard benches outside courtroom 2B, our heels tapping on the linoleum, waiting to be called. My lawyer, Denise, a soft-spoken bulldog in gray, finally emerged from the hallway with a clipboard and whispered, "You ready?" I wasn't, but I nodded anyway. Inside the courtroom, the air was still, heavy, like the walls were holding breath. The judge, a woman named Justice Prather, glanced over her reading glasses and called our case number. Cameron and I stood. His lawyer walked confidently to her place. Denise adjusted her glasses and stayed right beside me. "Miss Reed," the judge said, "you didn't file a countermotion for custody." "No, Your Honors. You're aware this grants full physical and legal custody to the petitioner." "Yes." There was a pause. The courtroom was full of strangers, and still, the silence echoed like a gunshot. Justice Prather tilted her head. "Do you want to explain why?" Denise stepped forward, but I raised a hand. "It's okay. I'll speak." Zara tensed behind me. I looked at the judge. Because he knows how to parent, and I know how to rebuild. A murmur swept through the courtroom. I didn't flinch. Cameron stared at me like he didn't know who I was. Like the woman standing in court, deliberate, composed, wasn't the one he'd left in silence months ago. Justice Prather leaned forward. "Miss Reed, are you absolutely certain you wish to make no claim for joint or physical custody?" I nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." Behind me, someone whispered, "Damn." Might have been another lawyer, might have been Zara. The judge signed the form. Bam, one tap of the gavel, just like that, it was done. I walked out before Cameron could speak. I didn't wait for his questions, his explanations, his confusion. Zara practically chased after me. You dropped a line in there like it was a monologue. "He knows how to parent, I know how to rebuild." Girl, I almost stood up and clapped. I kept walking. Outside, the air hit me like a wave. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. But I did bend at the waist like someone punched the wind out of me. Zara caught me before I fell. "You okay?" "I don't know. Wanna go break something?" I almost laughed. "Let's get waffles." She blinked. "You're evolving, I'm proud of you." We were halfway to her car when Fallon called. "Don't get in the car," she said. "What?" "Simone's waiting at the pancake place with shots of bourbon and a framed photo of Cameron and the woman." I sighed. "Seriously." She labeled it Exhibit A, why we don't date coworkers. Zara's eyes lit up. "That's it. She wins this round." "Also," Fallon added, "your dad said to tell you he's proud of you. He's baking banana bread. I think that's code for emotional processing." I closed my eyes. In a matter of hours, I had finalized a divorce, surrendered custody, and walked away from a decade-long relationship without ever raising my voice. Cameron once said I was too emotional, too loud, too reactive. Today, I was none of those things. And still, I won. Simone didn't let me breathe between sips of orange juice. She slid the laminated menu off the table like it was blocking her performance. "Fallon says you looked so calm in court. The judge might have mistaken you for a damn sleep therapist." She asked one question, I said. I answered. "Please," Simone scoffed. "You delivered a mic drop. He knows how to parent. I know how to rebuild." Beyoncé wrote that down, I swear. Across from us, Zara spooned whipped cream off her waffle, nodding like she was in church. I'm still not over it. Fallon arrived halfway through our syrup-drenched retelling, holding her phone in the air like it was radioactive. "I wasn't going to show you this today," she said, but then Zara made a toast with butter knives and yelled, "To freedom and pancakes." So here we are. Simone raised an eyebrow. "This better be good." "It's not good, it's gasoline." She turned the phone to face us. Cameron, Drea, they were on a beach, somewhere warm, definitely not local. Cameron wore a white button-down that was halfway unbuttoned like he'd seen too many resort catalogs. Drea wore red, tight, glittering, probably meant to scream confidence. Her arm was looped through his, and she was smiling directly at the camera. I didn't flinch, but Zara did. "Please tell me that's not a recent photo." Fallon sighed. "Posted yesterday. Someone tagged me in it, not knowing I'd light a prayer candle just to avoid seeing his face again." Simone took the phone next, eyes narrowing. "He's not even wearing sunscreen. I hope he burns." He's holding a cocktail, Fallon added. Umbrella and all, like this is a post-divorce vacation and not a cowardice tour. I finally looked down at the image. Not for long, just enough. That's the hotel we were supposed to go to on our 10th anniversary. Zara froze mid-bite. You're kidding. He told me it was too expensive. Canceled the reservation. The table went silent, Simone's jaw clenched. Fallon. Send me that. Fallon hesitated. Why? I'm printing it, she said, framing it and taping it to our wine fridge. Zara snorted. We need a name for the fridge now. The morning cooler. The petty portal. Simone grinned. The justice drawer. We all laughed. It wasn't joyful, but it was better than crying. Fallon tapped her nails against the table. You really don't want to send him anything back? No message, no rage text. No perfectly timed post of you thriving in court heels. No. Why, she asked. Because I didn't lose. Zara leaned forward. You sure? Because it feels like you're carrying an unlit Molotov cocktail in your soul and refusing to throw it. I'm sure, but the photo burned behind my eyes anyway. Simone called over the waitress, ordered 3 shots of bourbon, and when they arrived, she lifted hers in the air. To Drea, she said. Fallon raised hers. May her Wi-Fi be weak and her edges uneven. Zara chimed in. And may Cameron get sand in uncomfortable places for the rest of eternity. I raised mine too, not for them, for me, to rebuilding. We clinked, we drank. And then Simone did what she always did best, started chaos. Okay, but real question, she said, grinning. When he comes crawling back, and he will, who's punching him first? Fallon raised a hand. Shotgun. Zara added, emotionally or physically. Simone shrugged. Surprise me. I laughed. For real this time? And it wasn't about Cameron, or the photo, or the beach I'd never visit again. It was about being surrounded by women who weren't here for pity, only power. I hadn't planned on doing anything for his birthday. Not even a text. But then I saw the date circled on the calendar, Fallon stuck to our fridge like it hadn't already burned itself into my brain, and something in me cracked. My son's birthday. He was turning 7. Cameron got custody. Not because he fought harder, but because I didn't fight at all. Because I was too tired to battle a man who weaponized my every word. Because I thought walking away would hurt less than holding on. But 7 felt big. 7 meant second grade and tooth fairy notes, and the kind of birthday party where someone inevitably cried over cupcakes. And it hit me, somewhere between folding Zara's laundry and pouring myself stale cereal, that I wouldn't even be there to cut the cake. So I called the school just to ask. Hi, yes, this is, I stopped, breathed. This is Cameron's ex-wife, my son's mother. I wanted to know if I could drop off something today for his birthday. The woman on the phone was kind. She said of course. She told me I could bring it before lunchtime, and they'd make sure he got it. I packed a gift bag, his favorite book series, the limited edition video game he wouldn't shut up about last time, and a card I rewrote 6 times because I couldn't figure out if I love you so much was enough or too much. Fallon came with me. She didn't say anything on the drive. Just played a playlist filled with soft songs that didn't try too hard to soothe me. When I handed the gift to the front desk, I smiled. Pretended I wasn't trembling. The receptionist said, he's going to light up when he sees this. I nodded like I believed it. We got home around 2, and at 2:37 p.m. my phone rang. His name lit up my screen, my son. I picked up on the first ring. Mom. His voice was small, quieter than usual. Hey baby, I said, my throat tightening. Happy birthday. There was a pause, then he asked, why didn't you come? I closed my eyes. I tried to find the words. I thought it might make things complicated, but I wanted you to have a great day. He was quiet again. I like the game, he finally said. The card too. I'm glad, I whispered. I showed my teacher. My chest caved. That's great, sweetheart. Then he said it, the one sentence that shattered me more than any court hearing or vacation photo ever could. I miss when you used to sing to me at night. My breath caught. I pressed the phone tighter to my ear like that could bring him closer. I miss that too. We stayed on the phone for 5 more minutes. He told me about the cake, about how his friend Jaden threw a cupcake at another kid, about how he got a birthday crown from his teacher. And then Cameron took the phone. We have to go, he said. I didn't say goodbye, I hung up. Simone was already pouring wine when I walked into the kitchen. Zara turned down the TV and looked up at me with wide eyes. What happened? I opened my mouth, then shut it again. I sank into the chair and stared at the wall. Fallon sat beside me. Talk. I did, word for word, every syllable my son had said. And when I got to the bedtime song, I cracked. I didn't sob, I unraveled. Simone handed me a napkin. Zara hugged me from behind. Fallon muttered something about how she was going to file a restraining order on Cameron's behalf if he ever took another breath in my direction. Then Simone said, "This isn't over." "What do you mean?" I asked. "You're his mother," she said. "And you gave up custody because you thought it was the cleanest way out, but you didn't walk away because you didn't care. You walked away because that man made you feel like you didn't matter. And he's not raising that boy alone. Not anymore." Fallon chimed in. "You're filing for joint custody. We'll get a lawyer. Hell, we'll crowdsource the damn retainer if we have to." Zara nodded like she was ready to post a GoFundMe that second. "I don't want to drag my son through court," I said softly. "And you won't," Simone replied. "But you will remind him who his mother is. You will show up. You will sing him to sleep again if that's what it takes." That night we made a plan. Fallon would call her friend who worked in family law. Zara would help me gather everything I needed: texts, photos, the receipts. Simone, she was already drafting a list titled Reasons Why Cameron Ain't sh*T, legal edition. I didn't have all the answers yet, but I had 3 women who refused to let me forget my worth, and 1 little boy who still remembered my voice. The next day was supposed to be uneventful. I was in leggings, hair tied up, halfway through folding laundry when Fallon called. Not the usual ringtone, either, FaceTime. I nearly declined it, thinking she just wanted to vent about the real estate client from hell again. But something about Fallon's energy hit differently the second I picked up. "Put me on speaker," she said without a hello. "You need to hear this." Simone and Zara were both already in the living room, arguing over what snack went best with wine, popcorn, or almonds. I held the phone out and said, "Fallon's got something." She didn't waste time. "So guess who was at the Rutherford Gala tonight?" she asked, panning her camera to show a large, obnoxiously chandeliered ballroom. "Cameron," Simone guessed, rolling her eyes. "Nope," Fallon said, moving the camera back to her face. "Drea, alone and drunk." Zara sat up straighter. "Go on." "She was talking to Madeline Portwood, you know, the divorce lawyer. And she said," Fallon paused for dramatic effect, and I quote, "I didn't know it'd be this hard. He's not over her." Silence. Simone dropped the popcorn bowl. "I'm sorry, what?" She said it 3 times. Fallon continued. "Once to Madeline, again to some woman named Bree from the auction board, and once to the bartender." Loud, clear, slurring like an open faucet. I didn't breathe, I didn't blink. Fallon went on. Then she said, and I swear this on my dog's life, he still says her name sometimes. I try not to care. I try to forget she exists. But it's hard to erase a ghost that isn't dead. Simone stood up like she needed to fight someone. Zara put both hands over her mouth. "This is so much better than anything on Netflix." I just sat there, frozen, staring. Fallon continued, "I told Madeline I was just a nosy cousin, but you know what she said. She said if he's still hung up on the ex-wife, she better get her ducks in a row. That man's spiraling." I blinked. "Madeline said that." "She knows him, babe," Fallon said. "Cameron consulted her once. Didn't go with her because he said she was too aggressive. But she remembered his name." Simone leaned against the wall and exhaled sharply. "So let me get this straight. His girlfriend is cracking at charity galas, his son is crying at school, he's leaving midnight voicemails, and now legal professionals are labeling him unstable." "Correct," Fallon confirmed. Zara pulled out her phone. "I'm tweeting this with no context." Simone looked at me. "You okay?" I didn't answer immediately. Because for the first time in months, something in me shifted, not grief, not guilt, power. I'd been painted as the one who quit, who walked away, who signed the papers and gave up the child like a forgotten errand. But now, he was the one unraveling. His lies were catching up. His fantasy life with Drea was rotting from the inside. And I didn't even have to lift a finger. "What are you gonna do with this info?" Zara asked. I thought about it, then I said, "Nothing." Simone's mouth dropped. "Nothing." I nodded. "Why not drop it into the group chat?" Fallon said. We could leak it. Dria's got a podcast. Imagine if she broke down mid-episode and... No, I interrupted. Let her spiral, let him fall, I'm not their therapist. Simone gave a slow, satisfied nod. So we're playing the long game. Exactly, I said. Fallon grinned. Queen behavior. But the truth, the real reason I didn't want to weaponize Dria's breakdown, it wasn't nobility, it was clarity. For the first time in a year, I didn't need revenge. I didn't need proof. I didn't even need him to say sorry. Because I had my son's voice ringing in my ears, asking for a bedtime song. I had Fallen in gala gowns gathering intel. I had Simone planning legal strategy with the tenacity of a mob boss. I had Zara threatening to buy me a taser just in case Cameron ever showed up again. I had a tribe, and he had regret. That night, Simone sent over the initial draft of a petition for joint custody. Fallen called her lawyer friend to get a second opinion. Zara created a folder labeled Operation Comeback and added every relevant screenshot. We were building, and somewhere in a hotel bed or luxury condo, Drea was falling apart under the weight of a lie she'd bought wholesale. My phone buzzed around 1 a.m. It was a text from an unknown number. Tell your cousin to keep her mouth shut. I showed it to Fallen in the group chat. She replied, you just made it worse for yourself. I turned my phone off after that, took a long shower, looked in the mirror. And for once, I didn't see the woman who got cheated on. I saw the woman people were still afraid of. He called at 1:17 a.m. I remember the time exactly because I had just turned off my phone 15 minutes earlier and then, stupidly, turned it back on to double-check if I'd locked my banking app. The screen lit up before I could even press anything. His name, not a number, not unknown. Cameron, I stared at it, didn't touch it, just let it buzz until it stopped. Then came the voicemail alert. Simone, who was asleep on my couch because she didn't trust Cameron's ghost energy floating around, opened one eye when she heard the vibration. Please tell me that's not him. I nodded slowly. She bolted upright. Put it on speaker. I hesitated, my finger hovered. Do it, she said, so I did. His voice was hoarse, tired. He started with a shaky breath like he'd practiced what to say but still couldn't get it right. I don't even know why I'm calling, he began. Maybe because I can't sleep, maybe because I miss hearing your voice. Our son, he keeps asking for you. Every night. Tonight, he cried. Said he wanted mommy. I didn't know what to say. I tried to sing that song, he asked me to stop. Said I was doing it wrong. He paused, I could hear him sniff. I think I made a mistake, a huge one. Simone folded her arms. A mistake, she repeated. He served you divorce papers like a pizza menu. He continued. You didn't fight, you just signed. I thought you didn't care. I thought you wanted out. But now I see you were just done. I didn't understand that until now. Zara, who had come over to drop off some herbal tea and stayed to binge watch reality TV, leaned forward. You see what he's doing, right? He's throwing emotional spaghetti at the wall. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Cameron's voice went on. I know I probably don't deserve it. I miss you. And I miss the way things used to feel. Can we talk? Simone grabbed a pillow and screamed into it. Zara typed something furiously on her phone. Seconds later, my Apple Watch buzzed with her text. He wants the soft version of you. Don't give it to him. I turned the phone off. Again, Simone sat up straighter. So what now? He cracks at 1 a.m. and we're supposed to feel sorry for him. Girl, if you let him back in, I'll change your locks myself. I won't, I said, voice low. I just needed to hear it. Hear what? Zara asked, eyes narrowing. That he's unraveling, I replied. That he knows he lost something good. Simone leaned forward. Do you? Do I what? Know you're something good. I didn't answer, I didn't have to. Because in that moment I wasn't the ex-wife. I wasn't the woman who got cheated on, who gave up custody, who stood quietly while people judged her. I was the storm he thought he'd escaped. And now he was standing in the rain without an umbrella. Later that morning, the group chat me, Simone, Zara, Layla, Fallen, and Roxy lit up. I told them what happened, played the voicemail for the ones who hadn't heard it. Reactions came in fast. Fallen, I told y'all. He's unraveling. Layla, he doesn't want you. He wants comfort. Roxy, ask him if he wants a tissue or a time machine. Neither will help. Simone typed, new rule, we're not calling that man Cameron anymore. He's just the subject, like in a crime documentary. Zara added, he's Exhibit A. The group chat renamed itself, The People versus Exhibit A, and just like that, the tension broke. We were laughing again. But the heaviness didn't leave me completely. It clung to the edges of the day like a bruise, subtle but impossible to ignore. Later, as I stood in the kitchen reheating leftovers, my phone buzzed again. Another voicemail. I didn't even listen to it this time. I just forwarded it to Fallen. Collect the evidence, I said. Fallen sent back 3 fire emojis and trial prep ongoing. That evening, I got a call from my Aunt Carlene. Baby, your uncle said he heard from someone at church that Cameron reached out. Is that true? Yeah, I replied, bracing myself. Carlene was gentle but firm. I know it's tempting to make peace with the past. But remember, peace isn't always silence. Sometimes it's distance. I know. He's not over you, but are you over needing him? That question sat with me all night. Before bed, I played back the old voicemail, the first one. From months ago, right after the papers were signed, he'd said, "You'll regret this. One day you'll wish you fought." He was wrong, I didn't fight then. And I sure as hell wasn't surrendering now. It was a Saturday morning. The kind that should have smelled like pancakes and quiet music, but instead smelled like dread. Zara was in the kitchen, frying plantains in one pan and eggs in another, humming something off-key and refusing to let me touch anything. "You're in recovery," she declared, like I had just gotten out of emotional surgery. Simone was scrolling through her phone on the couch, still in her bonnet and hoodie, her mug steaming beside her. Then came the knock, not a buzz, not a doorbell, a knock, sharp, direct. Zara looked up from the stove. Simone sat up slowly. "You expecting someone?" "No," I said, already knowing. I walked to the door like I was stepping onto a stage, because part of me knew. There's a knock you hear in your bones when it's someone from a chapter you didn't finish writing. I opened it, and there he was, Cameron. Same hoodie I bought him for Christmas 2 years ago, hair slightly messier. Eyes heavy but wide, and behind him our son. Clutching a teddy bear, his small hand holding onto the frayed sleeve of Cameron's hoodie like it was a rope in a storm. My breath caught. For a second, no one moved. Then, from inside the apartment, Zara's voice floated in like background music to a confrontation. "If it's Jehovah's Witnesses, tell them we already witnessed enough this year." Simone appeared in the hallway behind me, taking one look at Cameron and letting out a long, theatrical sigh. "Oh no." Cameron's voice broke the tension. "I'm sorry," he said, not to Simone, not to Zara, to me. "I think I made a mistake." He wasn't crying, not yet, but his voice cracked on the last word like it wanted to shatter. I looked down at our son. His eyes were wide and unsure, like he didn't know what to expect. He clutched the bear tighter and whispered, "Hi, Mommy." That nearly took me out. Simone stepped forward, phone already in hand like she was ready to record or call someone or both. "Do you want us here or gone?" she asked me, quietly but clearly. I turned slightly and nodded. "Stay." I stepped aside just enough for them to enter. Cameron hesitated before stepping inside, like crossing that threshold might turn him to ash. Zara handed me a plate of food and whispered, "For strength." Then turned and said to Cameron, "No offense, but if this turns into a scene, I will throw an egg." He looked down, embarrassed. "I'm not here to fight." Simone snorted. "Good, because we're not arguing with Exhibit A today." Our son tugged my hand. "Can I sit on the couch, Mommy?" I nodded and helped him get settled, tucking the bear under his arm. Cameron stood awkwardly, hovering near the entrance like a man who forgot where he used to belong. "Why are you here?" I finally asked. He exhaled, slow and unsure. "I didn't know where else to go. He keeps asking about you. Bedtime's hard, mornings are worse, and I don't know what I'm doing." "You knew what you were doing when you filed for divorce," Simone said from the kitchen, casually pouring orange juice. Zara added, "And when you vacationed with Drea. With your whole chest." He flinched. "I didn't come here to defend that. I know what I did. I know how much I hurt you." "You don't," I said quietly. "Because if you did, you wouldn't have let a stranger deliver my divorce papers at work." His mouth opened, then closed. My son looked between us and asked, "Are you mad at Daddy?" I knelt in front of him. "I'm not mad at anyone, I'm just tired." That more than anything cracked Cameron. His posture crumpled. He sat down at the edge of the ottoman, elbows on knees, face in his hands. "I'm sorry," he whispered. You already said that. I need you to believe it. Simone scoffed. You need therapy and a mirror. Stop, I said, holding up a hand. They went quiet. Cameron looked up. I thought I was doing the right thing, setting you free, giving you space to be whoever you wanted to be. I thought maybe I wasn't good enough to love you the way you needed. And then I convinced myself that Drea was easier. Easier? Zara asked, voice sharp. You left a whole wife and child for easier. Cameron turned to me. She didn't ask hard questions. She didn't expect emotional depth. But after a month, I realized she didn't know me. Not really, not like you do. I shook my head. You didn't want someone to love you. You wanted someone who wouldn't hold you accountable. He closed his eyes. You're right. And now what? I asked. You want to walk back and like nothing happened, hug your son and erase everything? No. He stood. I just want to try. I want to show you that I know what I lost. Our son walked over and took my hand. Can Daddy stay for pancakes? Simone whispered, that kid's a scriptwriter, I swear. I bent down and kissed the top of his head. Daddy can have a plate, but only if he promises to eat it quietly. Cameron nodded, a small, shaky smile forming. I can do that. He sat at the table. Zara placed a plate in front of him with the precision of someone setting down evidence. Simone handed me her phone. A message from Fallen lit the screen. Tell him this is a one-time parole. He's not off trial yet. I typed back, noted. And for the first time in months, we sat at a table, fractured, wary, but together. Not because everything was healed, but because some wounds needed to be seen before they could scar. We didn't speak much during breakfast. Cameron picked at the eggs Zara had made and kept glancing at our son, who was happily dipping his plantains into ketchup and telling Zara all about his new class hamster. Simone watched Cameron like a hawk, arms folded, lips pursed, every so often murmuring something sarcastic under her breath. When breakfast ended and the dishes were being stacked with exaggerated clinks, I stood and said, let's talk. In here? He asked, looking around like he was unsure if he deserved furniture. No, I said, pointing toward the kitchen. In there. Roxy, who had just arrived with 2 shopping bags and 0 context, blinked as I walked past. Wait, did I miss the reunion arc? What? Kitchen, I said again. Cameron followed me into the cramped space. The cabinets hummed from the dishwasher running, and the scent of soap and grease clung to the air. Layla was already there, half bent over a cup of coffee. She straightened when she saw him. Oh no, she said, eyes narrowing. Why is he in here? I asked him to be, I replied. Cameron didn't sit. He stood across from me at the counter, fingers tapping against the edge like he was waiting for sentencing. Layla crossed her arms but didn't leave. Roxy slid in with her phone recording audio, just in case, she whispered. I looked at him, really looked at him, not the version I married, not the one I once built a home with. This was someone. Hollowed, someone who had finally realized he was alone in the mess he created. You cried, I said. In front of my friends, my cousin, your son, why now? He didn't answer right away. Then, because I thought walking away made me strong. Because I thought shutting down would protect me from how badly I'd screwed up. You didn't walk away, Layla said, voice like a slap. You bolted. You filed papers without a conversation. You gave up like we were a job you hated. I was scared, he said, of being resented, of being a disappointment. You became both, I said calmly. Cameron looked down. I thought I was giving you a favor. That if I made the choice, you wouldn't have to. That's not love, I snapped. That's cowardice wrapped in a bow. Roxy leaned against the sink. And the cheating, was that part of the favor too? He looked genuinely ashamed. No, that was selfish. Drea was easy, she didn't ask questions, she didn't expect effort. She laughed at everything I said, I felt seen. Layla scoffed, you felt enabled, not seen. I see that now, he said. I know what I walked away from. I know what I destroyed. I stepped forward close enough that he had to lift his head. And what do you want now? I asked. He swallowed. I want to show you that I can be better. That I can rebuild what I broke. Not possible, Layla said before I could speak. Roxy added, you didn't break a vase, you blew up a house. He turned to them, voice hoarse. I'm not asking for permission. You're in my kitchen, Layla said, stepping forward. You're lucky we didn't drag you out in the first 5 minutes. I raised a hand. Let me speak. They quieted reluctantly. I looked at Cameron, eyes steady. You left, you filed. You paraded Drea around like the woman you were always meant to be with. You let our son get attached to her, knowing you weren't over me. You stood in front of a judge and signed papers without once looking me in the eye. He nodded, jaw clenched. I didn't scream, I didn't fight, but that doesn't mean I wasn't bleeding. His voice cracked. I know, I swear I know now. You don't, I said, firmer. Because if you did, you wouldn't be asking me to entertain the idea of trusting you again after watching me stitch myself back together without a single call. Silence. Then he asked, is it too late? I looked at Roxy, at Layla, at the empty mug in my hand, then back at him. It's not too late for you to be a good father, I said, but as for us, I don't know. He opened his mouth, but I held up a hand. I don't know if I can ever look at you and not see the man who gave me paperwork instead of a conversation. The man who let me sit alone on our son's birthday while you played house with someone else. He blinked fast. I'm not saying no, I said, but I'm not saying yes. He stepped forward. What do I need to do? You need to be consistent, I said. You need to show up, not for me, for him. Because if I see one flinch of the man who ran away, I will never let you near him without supervision again. Roxy nodded. That's the correct energy. Layla added also therapy, like real therapy, weekly. And if you skip even one session. I won't, he said. Good, I replied. Because the only thing worse than not trying is trying badly. He nodded, a tear falling this time. Layla looked at me. Are we done? Yes, I said. Cameron reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper. I wrote this. It's not much, just thoughts. Because the only thing worse than not trying is trying badly. He nodded, a tear falling this time. Layla looked at me. Are we done? Yes, I said. Cameron reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper. I wrote this. It's not much, just thoughts. I didn't take it. He placed it on the counter and turned to go. When he opened the door, our son ran up to him and hugged his leg. Are you coming back tomorrow? Cameron looked at me. You can, I said. We'll talk about the schedule later. He nodded and left. Layla and Roxy watched him walk out the door, then turned to me. You okay? Roxy asked. I will be, I said, and I meant it. The door clicked shut behind Cameron, and for a moment the air just held still. Roxy was the first to break it, sliding her phone into her pocket. You didn't cry, she said, almost in awe. I did enough of that last year, I replied, still staring at the folded paper Cameron had left on the counter. Layla walked over and picked it up like it was radioactive. Want me to burn it? Or shall we frame it under top 10 regrets of a mediocre man? Neither, I said. Leave it, let it sit there. Roxy moved to the sink and washed her hands like she'd touched something contaminated just by being in the room with him. He actually said, what do I need to do? Like love is a job application. It kind of is, Layla muttered. And he got fired without severance. We all chuckled, but it wasn't joyful. It was the kind of laughter women share when they've finally hit a point beyond rage. When the wound stops gushing and just throbs. I walked into the living room where Zara and Simone were playing a card game with my son. He looked up the second I entered and grinned. Mommy, I beat Zara twice. Zara pouted dramatically. He's lying, it was once, and barely. I smiled and ruffled his curls, bending to kiss the top of his head. Twice or once, you're still the champ in my book. He glowed at the praise, then tilted his head and asked quietly, is Daddy coming back? The question landed like a weight on my chest. Everyone in the room went still. Simone subtly lowered her cards. Zara's smile faltered. I don't know, baby, I answered honestly, but he wants to spend more time with you. He nodded slowly, eyes searching my face. You're not mad at him. I paused. Grown-ups can be mad and still care. And sometimes, caring means taking time apart to think. He seemed to consider that, like he was older than 7. He said you were brave. Simone raised a brow, but stayed quiet. Did he? I said softly. My son nodded. He said you didn't cry when he came. No one spoke. The silence was thick, reverent. Then he added, quieter this time, I liked it better when you sang to me at bedtime. I blinked. You remember that? He looked down. You stopped. I swallowed, hard. It hadn't been a conscious decision. At some point in the spiral, when the divorce papers landed, when the custody agreement was signed, when Cameron left and the walls of my home started echoing, I'd stopped singing at night. Stopped reading aloud. stopped brushing his hair back and whispering, "One more page." I'd assumed he was fine with it, that he'd outgrown it, that the silence was easier than faking softness I didn't feel. But hearing him say it, so gently, so bravely, made my chest cave in. I sat beside him on the carpet and pulled him into my lap. He came willingly, curling against me like he used to when he was smaller. "I miss singing too," I said, stroking his hair. "We'll start again tonight." Zara discreetly took the cards and left the room. Simone followed with her eyes wet. He nestled closer. "Even if Daddy doesn't come back." "Especially then," I whispered. That night, after the dishes were cleared and my friends had filtered out with promises to check in tomorrow, I tucked him into bed like I used to. He clutched his teddy bear tighter, eyes blinking up at me with that same question I hadn't yet answered. Would everything go back to how it was? I sat on the edge of the bed and began to hum. Just lightly at first. Then I began to sing. It wasn't perfect. I forgot a few lyrics, my voice cracked, but his breathing slowed. His eyes fluttered closed. And for the first time in a long time, he fell asleep before I left the room. When I stood and turned to go, I saw Fallen standing in the doorway. "Didn't want to interrupt," she whispered. I joined her in the hallway. He remembered the singing. Fallen smiled, but it was laced with sadness. "Kids don't forget the softness." I nodded. We walked down the hall and into the kitchen, where Zara was organizing the leftovers like she planned to open a food bank, and Layla was pouring wine like it was currency. "He's asleep," I said. "Like peaceful or fake sleep so he can eavesdrop?" Zara asked. "Peaceful," I said. I sang. Zara froze. "You sang." Layla put a hand over her heart. "Now that's healing." "I think we're going to be okay," I whispered. No one replied with words. Instead, Zara handed me a glass of wine, Layla raised hers, and we clinked them together without a toast. We didn't need one. I didn't call Cameron back, not after he left the note on the counter, not after he texted, "Thank you for letting me see him." Not even after he followed up with, "I'll earn it, if that's what it takes." I didn't say yes. I didn't say no, I just didn't say anything. Because, for the first time in years, I didn't need to rush toward closure or healing or answers. I didn't need to chase peace. I already had it. Fallen stayed another 2 days. She cooked too much, cleaned too aggressively, and made a playlist she titled Post-Cheater Peace Vibes. Zara practically lived on our couch, rotating between work Zoom calls and impromptu wine tastings with Layla. And Simone came over one night in her pajamas with 2 tubs of ice cream and declared, "We're watching every rom-com where the woman wins." But through all the chaos, all the support, I noticed one thing. No one treated me like I was broken anymore. Because I wasn't. The woman who signed divorce papers without a single protest was not weak. She was just done. The woman who gave up custody wasn't abandoning her son. She was refusing to let him be used like a chess piece in someone else's ego war. And the woman who sat in a therapist's office and admitted, "I don't want to be angry anymore," wasn't lost. She was just finally telling the truth. I took my time rebuilding. Quietly, carefully, I didn't burn the house down, I redecorated it. New sheets, new curtains, new energy. The room where I once stared at the ceiling, wondering what I did wrong, now held soft light, blooming plants, and a sense of stillness that didn't ache. And my son? He kept asking questions, but not the kind that hurt. He wanted to know if we could bake more, if I'd come to his soccer game, if we could do movie nights every Friday again. I said yes to all of it, because those were the parts of myself I missed too. One night, he crawled into bed with me after a thunderstorm rattled the windows. I pulled the blanket over us, and he whispered, "Are you sad?" I thought about it. "No," I said, "not today." He nodded. "Me neither." We fell asleep holding hands. A few weeks later, Cameron sent another message. Not a plea. Just a photo, our son at the zoo, riding a carousel horse, one hand waving, the other clutching cotton candy. No caption. Just the image. I looked at it for a long time, then saved it. Then I turned off my phone, because I was in the middle of a brunch that mattered. Not with him, but with the people who never left. Layla was telling a wild story about her coworker who accidentally proposed to the wrong woman. Simone was trying to get the waiter's number. Zara had brought a new friend, a woman named Claire, who immediately fit in by roasting me for how I buttered my toast. Fallen was late, as usual, claiming she got stuck in a conversation with a pigeon. And Roxy, she was planning a girls' trip. No cheating husbands allowed, she said, raising her mimosa. Only upgrades. They all laughed, so did I. At some point, Simone leaned in and asked, "So, what's next?" I didn't pause. "I'm not sure," I said, "but I know who I am now." Layla nudged my arm. "And who's that?" I smiled. "Not someone waiting for love to come back. Someone who knows it never left. It just changed addresses." Simone grinned. "So, new address, huh? Does it come with a hot neighbor?" We burst out laughing again, and I realized something. This table, this laughter, this peace was the real story. Not the betrayal, not the heartbreak, not the man who walked out, but the woman who stayed, who rebuilt, who sang at bedtime, who said no to easy answers and yes to herself. So no, I wasn't back. I was something better, whole. Thank you for watching. Please do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I love you all.